So here we have a world economy, just this big fat balloon. So the question I have is that this is called bubblenomics, not economics, bubblenomics. Now, do you have to have a PhD to know what's going to happen next? Let's say the baby boomers find out their retirements are broke. Their entitlements, they're not Medicare, Social Security won't be there for them. What about all the school teachers who found out that Wall Street just robbed their pensions of their money, and the police officers and the firefighters? How are we going to solve the problem? In bubble economics, we're probably going to keep doing this. So real estate prices keep going up, food keeps going up, medicine keeps going up, education keeps going up, but they don't fix the problem because the problem starts here with education. So, question is, what's going to happen? Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm probably best known for the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But I'm here to talk to you about my book. The book is called Fake Money, Fake Teachers, Fake Assets. And it's interesting, 22 years ago, Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out on my birthday, April 8th, 1997. So this is the advanced version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but it's really the real reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And give a little genesis of how this book came. Years and years ago, back in the 80s, 1983 to be specific, I'm a student of a man named Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, who is best known for the creation of the geodesic dome. This geodesic dome was the U.S. pavilion at the World's Fair and Expo 67 in Montreal, Canada. So in 1967, I was a 19-year-old kid, and I hitchhiked from New York City up to Montreal to see Bucky Fuller's Expo, the dome, the U.S. pavilion, and it was the most amazing thing. And then I met Fuller finally in 1981. 82 and 83. And in 1983, Bucky Fuller passed away on July 1st, 1983. But he left behind this book called Grunge of Giants. And what grunge stands for is gross universal cash heist. It's how the ultra rich rip us off of our money. And so because of Grunge of Giants, this book here, I gave up my job, I gave up my company, and I wanted to find out how grunge ripped people off. So this here is the book that all my years of study have come up with Fake, and I'll just give you a little summary of it, and hopefully you'll read more detail inside Fake here. But the way the rich, ultra rich, the uber rich rip us off is via our money, our teachers, and our assets. So that's what Fake's about. And you well know today, most news is fake. In this book, I start with here in social media. Misinformation on social media is they make more money on misinformation or fake information than real information. And our news channels today, I don't know why I even listen to that stuff, because most of it's fake. And by the way, I'm not Republican or Democrat. Donald Trump is my friend, but I know he upsets a lot of people, but I'm not here to defend him. But the point here is this: what's really going on in the world today is the gap between the rich and everybody else is getting wider and wider. The trouble with being middle class today is that you're getting poorer. You say the middle class is shrinking. They're not shrinking. They're getting actually bigger, but they're getting poorer. So that's why, I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that's why I wrote this book, Fake. Because the reason the gap between the rich and everybody else is getting bigger is because of fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. And education is more important than before. I'm not picking on the teachers. I'm picking on the system of education, which is controlled by the rich. Question I ask all the time is, why doesn't our school teach us about money? Why not? Well, I balance a checkbook. Oh, good. I got my FICO, my debt score. Big deal. How stupid can you be? Look, these guys teach us nothing about money, but it's not an accident. So not picking on the teachers, 90% of all, no, not 90%, 80% of all teachers are good people. 20% are just there for the paycheck and their retirement, but their retirements are in trouble now. So anyway, the reason it's fake is all three are fake. And it's not an accident. That's what Fuller wrote about in his book, Grunch of Giants, Gross Universal Cash Heist. So fake here is about fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. So please read the book and you'll understand a little bit more. And then I will go further into why it's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. So let me give you a brief overview on fake and why it's all the same thing. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. Look, ladies and gentlemen, money is created by the U.S. government. And this is the same all over the world. All over the world. You know, the U.S. has a central bank. Europe has a central bank. Japan has a central bank. Mexico has a central bank. So money is created as debt. So after 1971, money became debt because the U.S. dollar became debt. And all of these guys say, oh, get out of debt. Get out of debt. Look, sports fans, if we got out of debt, the world economy would collapse because without debt, money doesn't exist. So they'll never tell you that. They'll never tell you that. So the problem is money is debt. And to have debt work, you have to have taxes. So real financial education, which I'm covering in fake, is about debt and taxes. But they'll never teach you that in school. The other thing, our school teachers teach us nothing about money. Is that an accident? No, it's because the ultra-rich, way back in 1903, created the something association on education. And they took financial education out of our schools. The purpose of education was to create employees and soldiers, people who would do as they're told. So our teachers know nothing about it today. And the thing that's frightening for most teachers is they went to, their belief system was, like my poor dad, if I got a job as a teacher, I would get a steady paycheck and a pension for life. That's not true anymore. Teachers' pensions are bankrupt. Why are they bankrupt? Because of these guys here. And this is controlled by Wall Street. The bankers there. So what they tell you to do is go to school, get a job. They teach you nothing about money. And then these guys tell you to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and savings. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and savings. That means your money flows to these guys here. It doesn't go to you. And what these guys do, they suck it out of the teachers' unions and the firefighters' unions and the police unions. Pensions are the biggest asset pool for Wall Street. So this is a system of fake. And that's what I cover in my book, Fake. We've all been set up by the ultra-rich and what Fuller called Grunch, Gross Universal Cash Heist. So what we did at Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we said, we teach you about debt and taxes. Got to be careful who your teachers are. In Fake, I write about, what made the three wise men wise. What made the three wise men wise? I'm not Christian, by the way. I'm not promoting Christianity. What made the three men wise was they went searching for the best teachers. So in Fake, I write about the best teachers I know about this system here. And also, I don't invest in the stock market. I've taken 3 companies public, and I actually produce stocks and those things. But I wouldn't invest in them. You should, maybe. But I wouldn't. So those are some of the things I cover in Fake, because one of the problems with these assets, as we know, markets go up and markets come down. That's the frightening part, because it's been going up and down, up and down, up and down, because they keep printing more fake money to pump this thing up. And, my house price went up, my stock markets are up. And they're being set up for the next crash here. So let me just say it again, and I'll show you a little short demonstration. My book, Fake, is about fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. They're all the same thing. They come under Grunch, Gross Universal Cash Heist, by Buckminster Fuller. So these guys here, notice these guys don't know anything about money, and they tell you to put your money in the stock market and save money. It's ridiculous. And on top of that, you listen to fake teachers from Wall Street. They're called financial planners or stock brokers or real estate brokers or insurance brokers. The reason they're called brokers, as my rich dad said, because they're broker than you. So you take all of this bad advice and it's all fake. So let me show you something here, and I think this will probably make it as clear as possible. In 1971 here, the US dollar became fake, and it became fake because they could print as much as they want. So this is what happened after 1971. When the government couldn't solve its money problems, the US government and governments throughout the world started to do this. They started printing fake money, and the economy expanded. And they kept expanding the economy. Look at it. Oh my God, there's more money in the economy. And everything was fine. So what happened for the baby boomers, my generation, markets kept going up and up and up. So the baby boomers have only known a good time. So then something happened in the year 2000. The economy is like this. There was a dot-com bust. So what did the government do? Because it's fake money, and the teachers kept saying, invest, get a job, don't worry about it, steady paychecks. And Wall Street said, invest for the long term. So after 2000, they kept blowing more money, fake money, into the economy. So then what happened in 2008, as you know, there was a bust. And they were afraid we were going to go into a depression. But instead of letting the economy collapse, what did the US government do? What did every government across the world do? These guys here, Japan, China, Europe, South America. So they kept pumping more fake money, known as debt, into the economy. So 2008, instead of fixing the problem, so today, the world economy is this big fat balloon. The point here is the whole world is floating on debt, fake money, and they never solve the problem. These guys, these teachers will never tell us what's happening. They keep saying, oh, don't worry, you get a safe, secure job. And what's happening to young people today, they're leaving school with 1.6 trillion in America, 1.6 trillion in student loan debt. And most of them can't find a job that'll pay off their student loan debt. And the old guys, my generation, their retirement plans are just filled with fake assets. There are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and savings. So here we are at an all-time high. Wall Street, these guys, they're not making any changes. So just as the baby boomers start to retire and the young kids find out they can't pay off their student loan debt, it's $1.6 trillion. What did Trump do? He cut taxes to keep this thing blowing up. They reduced interest rates to keep this, so you borrow more money. So here we have a world economy, just this big fat balloon. So the question I have is that this is called bubblenomics, not economics, bubblenomics. Now, do you have to have a PhD to know what's going to happen next? Let's say the baby boomers find out their retirements are broke. Their entitlements, they're not Medicare, Social Security won't be there for them. What about all the school teachers who found out that Wall Street just robbed their pensions of their money, and the police officers and the firefighters? How are we going to solve the problem? In bubble economics, we're probably going to keep doing this. So real estate prices keep going up, food keeps going up, medicine keeps going up, education keeps going up, but they don't fix the problem because the problem starts here with education. So, question is, what's going to happen? That's what's going to happen. So that's why I wrote Fake. I ask you to read Fake to understand there's things you can do to not be a victim of the biggest crash that's coming. Let me say this, I hope it doesn't come, but it goes back to 1971. You just can't keep printing money to save the economy. You can't keep having an education system that doesn't teach you about money. And you can't keep having Wall Street bankers telling the world what to give them more and more money through their 401ks, their RRSPs, their superannuations, their IRAs, Roth IRAs. You can't have a world so stupid about money. Because if we keep solving our problems by filling it more and more with fake money, we're going to bust. It has happened throughout history. The Chinese did it, Italians, the Romans did it, now America's doing it. So this is where we are in the world, and never has the world been in such a precarious position due to fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. So I wrote Fake, not because I need more money, but I like to encourage you to think differently, to learn different strategies. You'll find out in Fake how I'm preparing for the biggest bubble to bust I've ever seen. And the good thing about bubbles busting is when they come down, the rich get richer. And what happens is many of the people, the poor middle class, get poorer. So that's why I wrote Fake. So think about that for a moment.
If I had $100 today, I wouldn't touch stocks, I wouldn't touch bonds, I'd buy silver coins. I've said it before, and I mean it. For decades, silver has been manipulated, suppressed, ignored, but now the lid is blowing off. In 2025 alone, silver is already up 48%. I believe this is just the beginning of the run of a lifetime. Here's my prediction. $100 in silver today could be worth $500 within a year. That's why I'm buying more tomorrow. Meanwhile, the dollar is collapsing, inflation is draining your savings, and Wall Street keeps selling you fairy tales to keep you trapped in the system. You have a choice, ignore it or act now. That's why I want you to get the Rich Dad 2025 Silver Forecast Guide. Inside, you'll discover why silver is surging, what's driving the next wave higher, and the easiest way you can add real silver to your IRA or 401k tax-free, penalty-free. Call Priority Gold right now at 866-703-9895 or text the word GUIDE to 24999. No pressure, just real answers. Silver's breakout has already begun. The only question is, will you act before it's too late? Call Priority Gold now at 866-703-9895 or text the word GUIDE to 24999.
So welcome back. If you've watched this far, because you're such loyal, devoted fans to Rich Dad and education and fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets, let me take you to a little higher level of what I call bubblenomics. Not economics that they teach in school, which is lies. But I'm going to teach you what real bubblenomics looks like. But more importantly, why the rich are getting richer and why fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets are making the poor and middle class poorer. So this here is real economics. I call it bubblenomics. I like it because it makes me richer. But this is very simply it. The way money is created after 1971, okay, very important date. And fake starts in 1972 when I'm flying in Vietnam and my rich dad sends me a letter saying, hey, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. We had no idea what that meant. I didn't even know what gold looked like because, and this is in 1972 now, owning gold was illegal for Americans. Imagine that. It was illegal. So in 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and I had to find out then if gold is no longer money, what is money? So the way money is created is here you have, T stands for Treasury. So the U.S. Treasury sells a bond to the Fed or the central bank. And this is true all over the world. So when they sell a U.S. bond to the Fed writes a check. And this is where fake money is printed. See, bond, fake money, and then they give it to banks. So money is printed this way, it goes into our banking system. Sounds good, doesn't it? So this all thing works here, but this is why the rich are getting richer and the poor and middle class get poor. What do the banks do? This is like Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, PNB Paribas, the Bank of England, and stuff like that. Well, not the Bank of England, but the big banks. They give this money now. It now becomes money, and they give it to the rich. That's why the poor and middle class get taken out. So why don't they give it to the poor and middle class? Because what happened in 1971, the dollar, or all money throughout the world, the yen, the euro, peso, became debt. So the reason the rich get richer is the way they get the money out of the banks, guys like me, is we borrow money. And what everybody else is telling you is get out of debt. What the rich are using debt for is to buy assets. So what happened in 2008 when the whole thing collapsed and bubble burst, they dropped interest rates so low because they wanted me to go in there and borrow. So in 2008, I borrowed $300 million to buy real estate at dirt cheap prices. That's how money is created. But the poor and middle class cannot participate in that because they lost their jobs, they lost their homes and all this. And the banks would never give you that much money because you have no financial education, you have no track record, you have no finances. So they give you a credit card, give you bonuses like, free miles, use credit cards. But this is why the rich is getting richer. So let me review it one more time. The Treasury then issues a bond. It's called a U.S. Treasury bill, 10-year, whatever it is. They sell it to the Fed. Feds write a check. Money goes into the bank, and the way it becomes money is they give it to the rich in the form of debt. And all these wizards out there say, oh, get out of debt, but invest in the stock market, which makes these guys richer too. Getting screwed because our school teachers are not doing their job. So that's kind of what's going on in the world today. So the rich get richer. The young people are deeply in debt with student loan debt, $1.6 trillion in debt. And my generation, their retirements will be toasted when the bubble bursts. Already, many state pensions are broke, like Phoenix. The city of Phoenix pension plan is underwater $9 billion. That means they're going to have to tax the poor and middle class to pay for Wall Street stealing the money from the pension plans, which brings up the next thing. The only way they can recoup their money is via taxes. So when they pull the taxes out, it then goes back to the Treasury. That's the system. And what I explain is guys like myself, we use debt, but we don't pay taxes legally. So that's why I wrote Fake. If you can understand that, just read the book and see if you can understand a little bit better. But more importantly is what can you do? If you can't borrow this much money, what else can you do? And I cover that in Fake. In Fake, I cover a thing called the infinite return, where if you have the right financial education, you don't need money to make money. So those are some of the things you will learn in Fake. I trust you will learn it because if you don't, you'll probably go back to school, and learn from a teacher who knows nothing about money. So let me clarify something about this here. This is called bubblenomics, but in technical term, in academic world, this is called neo-Keynesian economics. It's basically an economy built on printing money to solve government's problems. John Maynard Keynes, who this is named at, would spit in his grave. He says, this is not what I designed it for. But all of these guys who run the government, they call it, well, John Maynard Keynes would do this. But that's why it's called neo-Keynesian. It is a system designed to make the rich richer and the poor and middle class poor, which will never be taught in schools. So let's take it one more step. Fake starts in 1972 when I was flying in Vietnam. I was fighting for capitalism. I was fighting for democracy. And, today we have many, many people going to socialism or communism. We have many socialists and communists as school teachers who are teaching our kids that the government should take care of you. So let me explain to you what socialism looks like. And I'm a capitalist, but let me show you the next thing. What the socialists are proposing is not neo-Keynesian. What the socialists are proposing is this here. You have the U.S. Treasury. You have the Treasury. You have the central bank. And then you have the banks. Okay, this is the old system. What the neo-Keynesian what the socialists are proposing is this. Take these guys out here. What that will do is cut off money to the rich. So what they're proposing, the socialists and communists in America today, the money goes this way, boom, straight to the people. This is called modern money theory. Print the money, give it straight to the people. And this has been tried many times throughout history. And every time this has been tried, it goes to hyperinflation and economies collapse. So your money becomes worthless because the system is broken here. Neither system is very good. But this is what the Democrats are proposing. This is what the Republicans are proposing. The question I have for you is, I encourage you to read the book Fake and decide which is best for you. Because if we go this way, probably go to hyperinflation, and we go this way, we're going into a depression. So that's how, I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. But I'm prepared for either way. And that's what I cover in Fake. You don't have to be a victim of this stuff. You can do something, but you have to do something. To hope that Donald Trump will save you, or the Democrats will save you, or your prime minister or your president will save you is really silly. I suggest just read the book Fake and save yourself. So what these guys in America, what they're saying is, we want free education, we want free medical, free manicures, free pedicures, free retirements, and another thing called UBI, Universal Basic Income. So there's a lot of these socialists in America who give everybody $10,000 a month or something. And they're also saying tax the rich. That'll never happen, Joe. The rich aren't that stupid, because the rich don't work for money, as you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So this is what's kind of going on in the world. It's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's why I wrote Fake. They think the way to solve the people is to tax the rich and give the money to the poor. But this is really what's going to go on. So please, if you have a chance, if you're so inclined, please read Fake and make different decisions. If you're hoping the government is going to take care of you or protect you, I'll pray for you tonight. I really believe you should learn to take care of yourself. So this has been tried before. Right after World War I, the government of Germany, the Weimar Republic, went straight to this. They just started printing money. It's called the printing press. And the value of what then was called the Reichsmark went to zero. Hyperinflation went through the roof. This has been tried throughout history. It doesn't work. This has been tried. It doesn't work either in the long run. So this is the Weimar Republic back in around 1920. The interesting thing that happened when Germany tried this, a man came to power. His name was Adolf Hitler in 1933. In America, the man who came to power was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1933. And we entered a Great Depression at this time also. So I'm afraid history is not going to repeat, but it will rhyme, because the system is the system that's in place today. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I choose not to participate in the system. History does repeat. Again, 1933 was Adolf Hitler. 1933 was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who brought us Social Security. Neither one was a good answer to it. So since you've been such a great audience, I'll give you another lesson in the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad bubble economics here. Because when I talk to people about financial education, they go, oh, I don't have to worry. I learned to balance my checkbook, and I learned about FICO scores, and, I have economics in school. It's a load of crap. That's not financial education. That's financial misinformation. It's fake information because it's not real. It's fake. They're lying to you. So I'm going to give you another little lesson in bubblenomics or bubble economics, but more importantly, how it affects the old guys like me, the baby boomers, and you young guys here who are in college hoping that college education is going to save you by taking economics and balancing a checkbook and FICO scores and investing in the stock market. That's 100% manipulation. It's 100% lie. So let me give you some real examples of bubble economics here. So this is repeating the way money is created one more time. This is the Treasury here. The Treasury sells a bond to the Fed. Now this is all over the world, Bank of Japan, European Central Bank. It's the same process throughout the world, and the money goes to the banks, the big banks. This is real economics. They just print money, and the money is printed here. It goes to the banks, and the money goes to the rich, like me. Like I said, I borrowed $300 million after the crash of 2008 because I know how to use debt. And what you're taught in school is get out of debt. I mean, that's really stupid because money became debt in 1971. That's real economics, okay? So that's what's going on in the world. And the way these guys get their money back is via taxes. So who pays the taxes? Well, the poor and middle class, of course. As you know, the rich don't pay taxes. All this crying and screaming, oh, well, tax the rich, tax the rich. Sports fans, the rich don't pay taxes. I just hate to tell you that right now. And I'll give you the reason why if you really want to know. The reason the rich don't pay taxes, and I cover this in most of my Rich Dad books, there's 3 types of income in the world today. Number 1 is earned income. Earned income is you working for money. So you get a job, you earn money. When you save money, you're taxed at earned income rates. That's why to save money is ridiculous, because you pay the highest possible tax possible. It's ridiculous. The second type of income is portfolio income. It's also called capital gains. So when your house price goes up, that's kind of earned income. Portfolio income. Your stock price goes up. You buy a stock, Apple, for $10. You sell it for $15. You made $5 in portfolio income. Okay, this is taxed at the next lowest rate. And then the third type of income is passive income, also called cash flow, which is why I created the board game Cash Flow, because what I want is cash flow. I don't want earned, and I don't want portfolio. That's why I don't invest in stocks, and I don't flip houses. Because if I flip houses or I flip stocks, I pay portfolio income. But if I hold on to my real estate and my business, I get passive income, and I can pay zero tax on that. So that's real financial education, not this garbage they're teaching you in school here. But let me talk again to the students out there. If you understand the system of money, the way it works here is this: the baby boomers are being ripped off because these guys here, the banks, sell you stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. This is your retirement. So when they're telling you to save for retirement, that's where the money goes. Those guys are ripping you off. That's what I wrote about in Fake. It's called assets under management. So these guys should rip you off. I don't. That's why I don't invest in those things. Okay. What I do like about the banks is they give me the debt. Completely different way of thinking here. So I pay no tax on debt. $300 million I borrowed. I didn't pay any tax on that. On top of that, if I buy real estate and I earned passive income and I depreciate and amortize my property, I pay no tax. So when they say tax the rich, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. They're not going to, the rich don't pay taxes. So if you really want to get educated and be like the rich, read Fake. Or you can say tax the rich, which the socialists and communists are talking about. So this is how they're screwing the old guys, me. Because there really wasn't a need for a retirement system until 1974. And the world changed. I won't go into it now, but this is how we screwed it. It was called, they took away what's called the defined benefit pension plan, and they created the 401k or IRA. But Wall Street still got the money. And if there's a crash, they're going to lose all of it. But so that's the old guys. The old guys are in trouble of not being able to retire. So the poor and middle class will get poor, rich will get richer. But how does it screw younger guys? And they get them through a thing called student loans. You see, the government needs debt. So they couldn't screw these guys more, so they have to screw these guys. And the way they do it is they blow it up again. So how can we get more debt into this system? Because they're already ripping off the old guys. Well, how can we screw the young guys? The way they screw the young guys happened in 2009. Up until 2009, it was the banks that issued the student loan debt. And they were tougher on them. They made it tougher for students to get loans. But what happened in 2009, President Obama said the Treasury will issue this. That's what happened. So it became an asset. Student loan debt became an asset of the U.S. government. Today, as I speak, it's $1.6 trillion. It's almost bigger than the real estate crash. So the way they kept blowing more debt into the market was then they already screwed the old guys. Now they're going to screw the young guys. So these guys here have the worst type of loan. And again, it was Obama. And this now is the biggest asset of the U.S. government. And the student that can't find jobs, they come out so highly in debt, their job will not amortize, will not pay off the student loan debt. And this is why there's no financial education in our school system. Because if you knew what was really going on, you wouldn't send your kids to school, or you would demand the teachers become accountable and teach real financial education, not that BS they're teaching you right now. Because all we're doing, and I'll show you this demonstration right now, as these guys cannot retire, or they're going to say, where's my money? States like Kentucky, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Illinois, California, Hawaii are going bankrupt. That means the Fed will have to bail governments out, state governments. Social Security is going broke. Medicare is going broke as these guys go broke, old guys. So they're going to keep just doing this. Because when this blows, they're going to have to do something to cover their butt here. So that's why it's called bubble economics. It's based upon fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets, and a bad financial and a bad education system that doesn't tell people the truth. So the question is, how much longer can they keep blowing this up with fake money? Stock market's high, real estate. Real estate is so high that the young people can't afford houses anymore. Food is getting more expensive. Medicine is getting more expensive. So they now want more fake money. They want universal basic income, give people money, tax the rich. That's all bubble economics. And you've already seen this demonstration before. Eventually, this is going to bring an end to it all. I hope I'm wrong, but the end is near. And I'm afraid when that happens, the whole thing comes down. So we either go into a Great Depression or we go into hyperinflation. It's happened before throughout history. So that's called bubble economics. This is not a new thing. The difference is it's now worldwide, because this is the system most Western countries are on. And students of the world had better get educated pretty quickly, because these guys, the old guys, will demand, they might move in with you. So anyway, that's real economics, what is called bubble economics. Thank you for paying attention.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.